What's up, guys? Joe Simons here with Captain Ryan Harrington. We are out in Tampa Bay doing some cut bait fishing on a really cold day, dude. We're freezing out here.
It's
in fact, dude, what's in here? I got ice in my pocket. It's so stinking cold.
Coming out, we knew, hey, we need to slow our baits down as much as we can. Well, it doesn't get much slower than a cut bait on the bottom. It's one of my favorite ways to catch redfish and target them. So basically, we're just, I call it chunk baiting or cut baiting, but that's gonna be the way we're gonna get them to eat. First thing we gotta do is catch our bait. A few different ways to do it, but the temperature today is about 45 degrees. So I'm a guide, I'm used to throwing a cast net every day. That's gonna be your easiest way to do it. But a day like this, I don't think any of us wanna get soaking wet and deal with the cast net. So there's actually an easier way to catch the same amount of bait. You can use your normal redfish rods. You don't have to get too technical because all we're doing is catching bait, but don't have a separate bait rod. Just go ahead and use your normal 4,000, 5,000 reel, 7.5 foot rod, whatever you're gonna end up fishing with for your inshore fish. Same leader and everything else, you're not changing anything. All you're gonna do is put on one of these pompano jigs. A simple loop knot connection, that's all you need. You wanna get the smallest pompano jig you can throw. Typically, I'm looking for 4 to 6 foot of water at the most, so you don't really have to worry about a whole lot of weight getting down there. There's times you might have to look around bridges, wherever you might have some pinfish, but a super simple, easy, clean setup. Find yourself like a flat, like you'd be trout fishing. That's where I like to start, and just sling these things around the flat. You'll also get some bycatch fish too, so even though you're targeting pinfish, you might end up catching some ladyfish, trout, other species. The ladyfish also make a good redfish bait. That's what I grew up using. It's a great bait, super effective. It's real oily. It's gonna do the job. You're gonna catch redfish on it. The problem is if you put some out there and you sit there long enough, after about 5 minutes, if you check your baits, you'll notice the inside's eaten out and all you have is the skin left. And that's mainly other pinfish coming in and pecking it. It's a real soft meat, so you're gonna have to change your baits out every 5 to 10 minutes if you use a ladyfish. The pinfish, just as effective, if not more on the redfish, but the nice thing there, once you take that cut piece of pinfish, you can lay that out there for 15 or 20 minutes, reel it back in, it's still gonna be fresh to cast again. So you're gonna go through a lot less bait, you're gonna need less bait to start with. Setup for cut bait. One of the easiest, simple things, again, you can use your same rod you were just catching bait on. I love jig heads. Cool thing about that is you can be rigged up, you can do a little bit of trout fishing, get some action going, and then all you have to do is simply take your plastic off of your jig head, and this right here is an effective outside bait. So you're gonna see what we're gonna do is run 4 rods. The 2 rods off the bow are gonna be circle hooks, and they're not gonna have any weight, they're just gonna be free line. Those baits typically aren't gonna move much. My 2 outside baits, especially if there's wind or current, those will eventually find the front baits, and I don't wanna fish all 4 baits too close to each other. So your jig head is gonna be your outside bait. Super effective way to do it. The other way is gonna be these bullet weights. It's not a common piece of saltwater terminal tackle many people use. I know a lot of bass guys use this, but you can still buy them at most tackle shops around. Typical bullet weights, these are 1/2 ounce bullet weights right here. Depending on how much wind or current, you can go up or down in weight, but that 1/2 ounce is pretty typical one for around here. And just a simple knocker rig basically on that. You wanna make sure that bullet's facing up, so when you're fighting the fish, you don't have any tension going backwards on it. So make sure that's how it's rigged. I just did a simple loop knot. I'll leave a little bit longer tag on that than I normally do. And that's just gonna help that from going all the way down to the hook. Split shot will do the same thing. Your problem with your split shot, if it's up here, if this bait is trying to drag through the grass or anything, it's gonna just weed up. Doesn't seem as effective as the bullet weights. The other thing too, if you have a lot of wind and you're trying to launch your bait off the side, you'll get more distance with the bullet weight. So try that out. Again, an uncommon saltwater thing, but you'll have good results with that. That's kind of your typical size pinfish around here. I call it a hand-sized bait. But basically, I'm gonna end up cutting this into 2 different baits. Now, the windier it is, sometimes I'll use bigger chunks just to help control your distance or get a little bit longer distance. But that's an ideal 2 bait size right there. A common mistake I see when people hear me talk about using cut bait or hear someone using cut bait, very simple thing, they'll reach in your live well, grab your pinfish, take a knife and cut it in half. That's not necessarily what I mean when I say cut bait in half. So you're gonna go ahead and use scissors. This is probably the number one little secret right here. Get yourself a good pair of like either fishing scissors or honestly even kitchen shears. And what I'll do is I'll actually start and I'll cut all the fins off this fish. I actually do the tail last. If you cut the tail first and they're alive and they're wiggling around, you're just gonna get blood all over your boat. Depending on the size of the bait. So today is windier, I'm gonna use a little bit larger baits. So I'm probably gonna go right here in half. We call that redfish candy. It's probably my absolute number one go-to redfish bait. The heads carry more weight to it. So you're gonna have, for the front rods, I like using the weight because those are free line, so a little bit more weight helps it, and I'll use the tails on the back. These smaller ones like this are still a really good size. So what I'll do is the same thing, I'll take all their fins off. Now you're gonna have a single cut bait this size, which is about the size of cutting a larger one in two. Another common mistake I'll see people use is just kind of hooking it anywhere in the bait, not really paying attention, just throwing the hook and throwing it out there. If you were to hook this bait too deep, like right in the middle, there's not a lot of room for that hook point to penetrate the fish's mouth. You know, a lot of times that hook point will turn back into the fish. So it'll actually hook itself, it'll come in like that. So you'll get your bait back, but no redfish. So that's a common mistake. Don't hook them too deep. I try to actually hook them halfway through the flesh and as shallow as I can. So if you notice how much that hook point is out there, once that redfish eats that, there's a lot better chance of that fish getting hooked up. The same thing on the heads with the jig head. Again, you don't want to make the mistake of burying it too deep in there. Good spot to hook the head is right up here. You can go through both sides of the meat. And again, you see how much that's exposed. I'm kind of glad that happened. I don't know if you can see, but there's a fish scale that's on the point of that. That's a common thing, whether you're fishing inshore, offshore. I see that happen way too often. Just one little scale will get on the tip of the hook. Doesn't look like a big deal to throw out there, but if that were to actually sit on that hook point and get hooked through, you're gonna lose penetration from your hook. So double check when you go through your bait, make sure that hook point is clean. That little bit of a difference, if it's a slow bite, could be you landing that fish or not. So again, barely hook the bait, it's not gonna rip out, you're gonna be good, and you got most of your hook point exposed. I'm expecting a very slow bite today. This is effective, we're letting Roddy do all the work, so all 4 rods that are out are in rod holders. If you notice, none of us are touching them. But we're actually currently getting a bite on this rod right here. That's a front rod, that's got a circle hook on it. If you notice, I'm not in any kind of rush to go get that rod, even if I'm looking this way and I hear the drag going off. I'm excited because we got a fish on, but I'm not worried about losing that fish. When he finally chokes that down, we're gonna have him on there. And I was gonna show you guys by pulling it, but if you look at the rod tip, you can see that slow rod bend going down and down. That redfish has it in its mouth right now, and he's sucking on that bait. He doesn't know he's hooked. These redfish are used to eating blue crabs and crushing through oysters, shrimp, anything that's sharp. And if you don't believe me, put your, yep, there we go, and we got him about on. That's how slow the bite is. It's very, very slow, and that's the reason this rod is a rod holder too. If any of us on this boat, or especially someone that's not a pro fisherman, it's muscle memory. You get a tap, it's just really easy to want to yank back. So basically, I try not to put any tension at all on there. So I'll start by picking it up, almost pointing it at the where you casted it, and then just give it a few slow cranks. Try not to move that rod at all. I'm trying to feel it without spooking it. So the fish is not there, but we're gonna see, also I'm gonna see what it was. Now I'm assuming it was a redfish, but this is the first time any of us are seeing this bait, and it was indeed a redfish, and you can tell again, the scales are actually missing on this fish. So if it was a catfish, they would have mushed it more. If it was a snapper or anything that would have teeth, you'd have more teeth marks in there. But this bait is actually descaled. It's just, I believe it's just that slow of a bite, and we needed to let him eat it a little bit more. The positioning of the boat, it also dictates where we were gonna fish exactly. If there's no wind, that's not a factor. So you go to your favorite spot and fish it. If wind is a factor, especially fishing the shallows, if you have obstacles, meaning islands, seawalls, docks, where those fish could or couldn't be, you're gonna have to play the wind. The way we're positioned today, I might not come back tomorrow on a 15-mile-an-hour east wind. We're fishing a north wind today. So I knew based on the spot we're at, based on the wind direction, I could put my boat right here and have a good spread. More so than, say, casting artificial, where you can kind of go downwind, cast a certain area. When you're set up to throw these cut baits out, you're in it for the long term, basically. You're laying those baits out, where they're positioned is where you have to fish. So boat positioning does become an extra factor. So just pay attention to the wind direction before you get to that spot, and know where you may or may not have to anchor, spot lock. however you're gonna position that boat, because again, you're stuck there for a while. So what I like to do is get to my spot. The boat's currently in 3 feet of water. So as good as these electronics are and dialed in to catch fish, they're doing us zero good right now. There's absolutely no point in having a side scan or a down scan on in 3 feet of water. So I just go in here. If you either know how to pause it, you can turn it off completely. I personally like pausing it. The reason I do that is I still have everything else here. So if I need to go to my chart, whatever I need to do, if I need to check my tides, I still have access to everything. It's just that the transducers are paused. So your machine's still on, it still works. If you have your radio tied into it, you're not killing all your electronics. Basically, you're just pausing the part that could. Does it really make a factor? I don't know. Someone like you guys at Salt Strong are certainly the ones that could test something like that.
Wait, let's talk about why. What's that transducer doing down there?
So the transducers, especially on the larger transducers, if you were to get in the water right now under the boat, you'll hear it's just a little chirp. It's a ding, 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 ding.
Constantly, right?
Yeah, so it's just something, we're fishing in 3 foot of water. We're trying to be stealthy. We're not beating around on the boat. It's one of those things, it's like, if it's not doing you any good having it on, you might as well pause it and have it off. Again, does it really mean you catch more fish or not? I don't know, but it doesn't do you any good.
Whenever advantage possible,
just try it, yeah. We're gonna go ahead and make a move, and that's a question I know a lot of you guys have. I get it myself a lot, is how long do you sit at a spot? When do you move? I usually give it when I cut bait, I would say maybe 30 to 45 minutes at the most with no action. And if it's tidal factored, if I know I'm gonna have better water at another spot, that time difference might matter. If I'm killing time on a slow tide, you could sit there all day. If the tide's moving, 30 minutes max would be the longest I'd stay at a spot. We just got a subtle bite. It took all the scales off, so you know it's a redfish. It was a bite, but the fish just didn't commit to the whole bait. So what I did is I actually took the chunk, the size I like, and I cut that in half. So now we have a little bit smaller bait. The theory is the water's really cold, the bite's a little bit slow. That smaller bait just might be something easy for him to swallow the whole thing, get a hook set out of him this time. We'll give it a shot.
With the Freeman though, would you get?
There we go, there we go.
There he is. And then all of a sudden, boom, come on. He's on it. You want him?
Still waiting on him.
You want to catch him? Go ahead. There, he's on there. Yeah, he's on there. So you're gonna set with the reel and not the rod. It's like everything you know to do, with no pressure. I'm sure we'll get more. Yes, let's go. And a lot of times I will leave all the other rods in, going for doubles and triples, but we're gonna go ahead and be safe on it.
Oh yeah, baby.
Good one too. There we go.
Whoa.
Oh,
Oh boy.
oh. I can trim up if we need.
Oh, can't be strong. He went right underneath. It's a nice one.
Yeah, good fat one.
He went right underneath that trolling motor. Try to get his head up for you.
Nice.
There we go.
Sweet.
Woo!
Good fat one.
We did it.
All right, so the cool thing about these Tampa Bay redfish, we call them basically Tampa Bay goldfish, but they're nice and copper red, real pretty colors to them. You see them, you kind of think they couldn't be that camouflaged, but you're looking at the side of that fish. If you notice, if you look at just his back, and if you look on the side of the boat, we're in real shallow water, but his back is gonna blend in almost completely into the bottom. These fish can be really hard to spot when I'm up on the tower looking. The other thing, if you notice though, his pec fins, they're almost like a bright orange color. So the fish, again, seeing him sideways is a nice color, copper. When he blends in, all you're gonna be able to see is those orange pec fins. So when I'm on the tower spotting redfish, you get a good color difference there. And you'll see when I release him, when he goes to the bottom, the fish body's gonna blend in, but his pec fins will stick out. So when I'm sight casting redfish, sometimes I'm only looking for those little side fins. There he goes. Leave it out for a second. That's a really good one right here.
Here with Captain Ryan Harrington.
Yee.
Catching some reds, baby.
Big old head on him.
That's solid, dude.
That's a good one.
Heck yeah.
Like Louisiana style right there. That's a good one.
Dude, nice. Heck yeah, dude.
This is one of those days we're not finding schools of fish. We're just getting singles, just kind of pluck it at them. So we just caught a fish about 10 minutes ago and put it right back in that exact same spot. There's probably about 50 different feet of water we could fish ahead of us, but this one ate it literally in the same exact spot. So if you're just plucking at them, get a bite, or if you miss a bite, throw it back in there. This may or may not be the same fish that ate it, but there he is. He's ready. See ya.